Tomorrow morning, the sun will rise. You probably won't even look at it. If it hits your eyes while you're driving, you'll pull down the sun visor. If it makes you sweat, you'll turn on the air conditioning. To you, the sun is a background detail, a mild inconvenience on a hot day. But for 99.9% of human history, that glowing circle in the sky was not a background detail. It was the single most terrifying, powerful, and important thing in the universe. To understand what your ancestors thought the sun was, you have to strip away everything you know about astrophysics. You have to forget about gravity, orbits, and the solar system. Imagine you are a hunter-gatherer living 100,000 years ago on the African savanna. You don't have a house. You don't have artificial light. You barely have fire. For you, the setting of the sun is not a beautiful moment to take a photo. It is the opening of a death window. When the sun drops below the horizon, the temperature plummets. Your eyes, built for daylight, become virtually useless. But the predators around you, the leopards, the hyenas, the saber-toothed cats, they see perfectly. Every single night, your ancestors sat in pitch blackness, shivering, listening to the sounds of things being killed in the dark. And they prayed for one thing, for the glowing circle to come back. When dawn finally broke, it wasn't just pretty. It was literal salvation. The physical sensation of sunlight hitting their skin meant they had survived another night. It meant the predators were retreating. It meant they could see again. Your brain is still wired to this exact mechanism today. When sunlight hits your retina in the morning, your brain stops producing melatonin and spikes your cortisol. It is a biological starting gun that has been firing inside human heads for millions of years. Because of this, ancient humans didn't just appreciate the sun. They revered it. Before humans worshipped statues or animals or invisible spirits, the sun was the absolute first god. And it makes perfect sense. Think about the ancient world. It was chaotic. Rivers dried up without warning. Plagues wiped out entire tribes. Winters were unpredictable and brutal. The world was dangerous and random. Except for the sun. The sun was the only thing in the entire universe that never broke its promise. It died every single night, and it resurrected every single morning. As human bands grew into massive civilizations, this biological relief turned into organized obsession. The ancient Egyptians called it Ra, the creator of all life who sailed a boat across the sky. The Incas called it Inti and believed their emperor was its literal child. The Greeks called it Helios, driving a golden chariot. We didn't just tell stories about it. We moved mountains for it. At Stonehenge in England, at Newgrange in Ireland, at Chichen Itza in Mexico, ancient humans moved millions of tons of stone. They spent decades building massive, perfectly aligned architectural calendars just to track where the sun would be on a specific day of the year. Why? Because if the sun controlled the seasons, and the seasons controlled the crops, then knowing the sun's schedule was the only way to avoid starving to death. The sun was a perfect, generous, all-powerful father. But there was a catch. What happens when the perfect, reliable God betrays you? Imagine it is 3,000 years ago. It is the middle of the day. The sky is blue. You are farming your field. Suddenly, the temperature drops by 10 to 15 degrees. The wind stops. The birds stop singing. The crickets start chirping as if it's midnight. You look up, and a shadow is racing across the land toward you at over 1,500 miles an hour. And then, the impossible happens. A black hole appears in the sky, right where the sun should be. It is framed by a ghostly, terrifying white ring of fire. You are experiencing a total solar eclipse. Today, we fly to different countries with special glasses to watch this. We treat it like a cosmic tourist attraction. But to an ancient human brain that doesn't know what the moon is or what an orbit is, a solar eclipse is not a cool astronomical event. It is the apocalypse. It is the visual proof that the entity keeping you alive is being murdered. The sheer, unadulterated panic that eclipses caused in the ancient world is almost impossible for modern humans to grasp. In ancient China, they believed a massive celestial dragon was eating the sun. People would run into the streets, banging drums, screaming, and firing arrows into the sky to scare the dragon away. In Norse mythology, it was a giant wolf named Skoll who chased the sun every day, and an eclipse meant he had finally caught it and was tearing it apart. In Hindu mythology, the demon Rahu was swallowing the sun god. But because Rahu had no body, the sun eventually fell out of his severed neck. These weren't just fun bedtime stories. They were desperate, terrifying attempts to explain why the architecture of reality was collapsing. In 585 BC, the Medes and the Lydians were fighting a brutal war in modern-day Turkey. Right in the middle of a massive battle, a total solar eclipse occurred. The soldiers were so utterly terrified by the sky going dark that they instantly dropped their weapons, stopped the 6-year war, and signed a peace treaty that very day. They believed the gods were screaming at them to stop. For tens of thousands of years, the sun was a living, breathing, conscious entity that judged us, warmed us, and sometimes threatened to leave us forever. And then, everything changed. It happened in ancient Greece, around 450 BC. A philosopher named Anaxagoras looked up at the sky. He didn't see a god. He didn't see a chariot. He looked at the sun and made one of the most dangerous statements in human history. He said, "The sun is not a god. It is a giant rock of red-hot metal, and it is probably larger than the Peloponnese." Today, that sounds like a massive underestimation. But 2,500 years ago, calling the sun a rock was a radical, earth-shattering idea. It was so radical that the Athenians arrested him. They put him on trial for impiety. They threatened him with the death penalty, and he was forced to flee the city and live the rest of his life in exile. Why were they so angry? Because Anaxagoras wasn't just insulting a god. He was killing the magic. If the sun is just a burning rock, then nobody is driving the chariot. If the sun is just a rock, then it doesn't care if you are good or bad. It doesn't care if you build temples. It doesn't care if you live or die. Anaxagoras was introducing the most terrifying concept modern humans have ever had to face: a mechanical, blind, indifferent universe. And the truth is, Anaxagoras won. Over the next 2 millennia, science slowly stripped the sun of its divinity. Copernicus proved it was the center of our system, not the Earth. Galileo pointed a telescope at it and saw sunspots, proving it wasn't a perfect, flawless sphere. And in the 1920s, a brilliant scientist named Cecilia Payne-Gaposchkin figured out what it was actually made of. Not a rock, not metal, but mostly hydrogen and helium. Today, we know exactly what the sun is. It is a G-type main sequence star. It is a gigantic, ongoing nuclear fusion reactor, 93 million miles away. Every single second, the sun's core fuses 600 million tons of hydrogen into helium. This reaction converts 4 million tons of matter into pure energy every second. The light that hits your face when you walk outside took tens of thousands of years to bounce its way out from the sun's dense core, and then exactly 8 minutes and 20 seconds to cross the vacuum of space and hit your eye. We have sent probes to touch its atmosphere. We predicted solar flares to protect our satellites. We know everything about it. We conquered the mystery. But think about what we lost in the process. When an ancient human looked at the sun, they felt a profound sense of awe. They felt they were part of a grand cosmic play, being watched over by a fierce but generous creator. When we look at the sun today, if we look at it at all, we are looking at a machine. A mindless, roaring engine of plasma floating in an infinitely dark void. And unlike the ancients, who believed the sun would rise forever as long as the gods were happy, modern science has given us a much darker truth. The sun is running out of fuel. In about 5 billion years, the hydrogen in the core will run dry. The sun will lose its stability. It will begin to expand, turning into a red giant. It will swell so massively that it will consume Mercury. It will consume Venus. And eventually, its burning outer layers will swallow the Earth entirely. The oceans will boil away. The atmosphere will be stripped. Every mountain, every city, every trace that human beings ever existed on this rock will be vaporized into atoms. The ancient humans were terrified that a dragon might eat the sun. The modern tragedy is knowing that the sun is the dragon, and one day, it is going to eat us. For 300,000 years, your ancestors looked up at the sky and saw a god who loved them. We look up, and we see a ticking clock. And maybe that's why, tomorrow morning, when the sun rises, you won't even look at it.